Shalom, shalom. Welcome to another live lesson. No, it's like it. Welcome to another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah. I'd like to give all honor and praise and glory to our power Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shah, by Shem Kadash, the honor to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, and thank that shit the whole full elect. Lord willing, this is edifying straight to the point. Now, regarding this topic, I forgot this guy's platform, but he's interviewing this woman. See, I get the details here. His podcast is called Cam Newtown Podcast. Yeah, Cam Newtown, right? Popular podcast, and he got this woman on his show, and basically, he asked, the woman was explaining to him that if he, and this is Eve, particularly, the so-called black woman, right? She was explaining that if her man cheats, she gonna cheat on her back. She gonna get her lick back, and this will spark the lesson, her comment, and the title of this lesson is gonna be "Women of Void of Wisdom," because you're not getting a lick back. You actually destroying yourself, because there is such thing as a double standard when it comes to men and women. We're not the same, right? A man can deal with multiple women, but a woman cannot deal with multiple men without destroying herself, because the scriptures tell you in Jeremiah the 3rd chapter, and mind you, it's a choice. You see what I'm saying? If a man chooses to deal with more than one woman, it's a choice. We're gonna definitely be in poly. I forgot the word. We're gonna be in in the kingdom. We're gonna be in relationships with multiple women, even before the kingdom and Jacob's trouble. Going back to Isaiah 4:1, right? So we're gonna have more than one woman to deal with, right? However, in the meantime, it's an option, for men. Not all men, choose to deal with more than one woman. And in regards for this ministry, for you brothers out there, the Apostle Paul commands us to actually deal with one woman because of the responsibilities and duties that come with being in this truth, right? We're chasing the Lord, you know what I'm saying? We're not chasing women, and dealing with multiple women is like owning multiple businesses, and that consumes a lot of time and energy, you know what I'm saying? Maintaining and managing, those businesses, if you have multiple businesses. So look at it that way. If you have multiple women, that's managing and maintaining the time and energy into all of those different women, right? And our main goal is to chase Yahweh Shah, not women. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're spending more time with your women rather than Yahweh Bashem Shah. You know, uh, 1 Corinthians 7th chapter, real quick. I'm gonna just pull this out real quick. First Corinthians is the First Corinthians the 7th chapter, and verse 'So let me find this verse. Yeah, I'm speaking on the office of a bishop, a deacon. No. First Corinthians. I'm gonna go back to First Corinthians 7. But yeah, basically, you know, when in regards to, you know, the woman, I'm gonna get the verse 2 as the point. It says, this is First Corinthians chapter 7 verse 1. It says, now concerning the things where ye written unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. So it's speaking about not the fact of being of being of not dealing with a woman at all. What the Apostle Paul is saying is single. Yeah, no, rather Salak. Yeah, no. Let me be clear. I don't want this to be any confusion. Right? He's speaking on being single, where it says it's good for a man not to touch a woman. Right? He's not talking about never in your life, because you brothers have, you know what I'm saying, a lot of some brothers have a lot of experience with women, right? And they touch women before even coming into this truth, and they still dealing with women now, right? It's not wrong for a brother to deal with a woman, but in this context of the first verse of First Corinthians, like the 7th chapter, the Apostle Paul is saying that the most optimal state to be in, or the best state to be in this truth, is single, because this way you have all your energy and time into, you can devote all your energy and time into the truth, right? Rather than splitting it up with a woman. You see what I'm saying? Because when you have a woman, you have to give time and energy into her, which is nothing wrong with. But this is why it's recommended that you only have one wife. You know what I'm saying? Now, like I said earlier, a brother has that option of getting more than one woman, but that goes back into for what it says in 1 Corinthians 13:5. Let a man examine himself, right? Because you don't want to take on two, maybe even three women, and you know what I'm saying, you can't maintain those women while maintaining this truth. You know what I'm saying? Those women are drifting you away from the truth. You're spending more time with them than with Yahweh Shai. So that's when it becomes an issue. So, you know, we as men have to know our limits. We got to know what we can handle, what we cannot. As it is, like the scriptures say, not everything is made for every man. Some man can't handle more than two. You know what I'm saying? One woman, right? But where we at in the ministry is where Yahweh Shai has us, where it's best for us, it's optimal for us, right? So in verse 1, it's speaking about, the best space to be is single regarding this truth. So if you are single right now, don't rush into getting a woman, right? Because the Lord's gonna bless you with that. You know what I'm saying? In due season, right? But you don't have to rush into that. You're actually, like I said, in the best space, because now that time and energy that will be given to the woman, you can devote it towards Yahweh Bashem Shah and building that relationship and strengthening that relationship. Because we can't forget that we have a woman already, and her name is Sophia, right? That's Sophia, the Greek way of saying wisdom. We already have a woman, okay? So any other woman technically is like your second wife. You know what I'm saying? Any woman you get in a carnal is really like your second wife or your third wife. You know what I'm saying? Depending how many women you get on the carnal sense, but they come second, compared to Sophia. This wisdom, this truth comes first. This is our main woman. We cannot forget that. We have to always remember that first love, because that is what could get you to be kicked, get you to be departed from the truth, is forgetting your first love. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 2. It says, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, right? So that fornication is, you have the spiritual aspect and the physical aspect. Spiritual fornication is idolatry, right? Worshiping anything other than Yahweh Shema Shah. Religion really goes into putting anything above Yahweh Shema Shah, right? Now, physical fornication is unlawful sex practices. So, for example, anal sex, if you brothers and sisters didn't know, is unlawful. So, if you know that is, if you've been doing that, you need to stop that because that's unlawful, right? Okay, that's prohibited. You know what I'm saying, right? Sleeping with your woman while she's on period, these are all cases of fornication, illicit or unlawful sex practices, right? Sleeping with your woman while she's on her period, right? Anal, right? Um, Orgies, right? Sharing the bed with an extra partner, right? Orgies. These are all cases of fornication. So it says, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, right? Let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband, right? Because that's the thing. When it comes to, I call it sexual temperance, right? If there is such a thing, but it is, sexual temperance, which is going into sexual discipline, right? So like, yeah, let me see, sexual temperance. Let me see, 'cause I might have, that might just be me leaning on my own and saying sexual temperance. It says sexual temperance refers to the virtue of self-control and moderation over sexual desires. Right. It says it involves managing sexual impulses rationally so they remain balanced, healthy, and aligned with personal values. See? And so I didn't make it up. So regarding sexual temperance, we're not all at the same levels. Some brothers have more sexual temperance than others. Some sisters have more sexual temperance than others. So that, and temperance is going into discipline, right? Self control. We all have it, but some brothers have it more than others. Some brothers and sisters have it more than others. Which means they can go without longer than others. You know what I'm saying? That's the spirit that the Lord has them in, right? I'm including myself in that. I have a high sexual temperance, right? You see, I'm I said I'm putting myself into that, right? Because I control. I have a good control, very good control on my sexual desires. Okay, now regarding you know verse 2 of First Corinthians 7:2, right? The Apostle Paul is saying here, says, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Okay, so because that because it's speaking on burning, right? Which is that desire, that need, right? The need to release, the need to get the edge, the need of embracing, right? So at some point, you only can go out for so long. Some brothers are like myself, they like units, right? They don't need to touch a woman. You know what I'm saying? Rather, I should have said more like a unit, because I ain't I ain't been with no woman. So some brothers, the Lord put that, got them as eunuchs where they don't need to deal with a woman, and you have some brothers that's not. They have to release at some point. They gotta embrace, right, so to speak. So on that account, for those brothers that need that release, right, the Apostle Paul through the Spirit is advising that you just get a woman, right, rather than you doing something that, what I'm saying, that's wicked, right, which is fornication, because of that burning lust, right, that burning urge to release. So now you're doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? All right. So yeah, if you're burning, and for those brothers that are burning, as the scriptures say, or need that release, at some point, right? Because men do. It's just natural. That's just how the Lord made us, right? We need to release that energy. We need, that embrace from a woman, and vice versa for the woman. She's gonna need that embrace from the man. Right? Um, sexual tension, as they say. Just get a woman. And now with the Eve, right? She can't just hop from woman to. I mean, Salake, she can't just hop from man to man. That's wicked, right? Like it tells you here as you go through this chapter. If she gets a man, she has to stay with that man, right? And if she leaves that man, she cannot get another man. You see? And the Lord's going to hold her to that because she she's a believer, right? She knows right from wrong. She know these scriptures, okay? And she claims to be in the truth. She should know these scriptures and understand that, and understand the responsibility that come with an Israelite woman regarding marriage. That you just can't hop from one man to the next. Oh, you gonna leave this man because he's doing X, Y, because you don't like the relationship and how it's going, and you want something new, you want something exciting, so you're gonna get a new man. That's not how this works. You know, you're gonna have to work it out. You're gonna have to stick with that man because you can't just hop from one man to the next. Right? You can't just put that man away and then try to get a new man. That's not how this works. So as an Israelite woman, laws, the responsibility of common marriage is that you have to stay loyal and stick to that man. Only under the extreme crisis of this of a domestic violence where it's appropriate for you to leave, under domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, you have to be loyal to your to the man that you choose to deal with. This is why that's why it tells us in James 1:5, right? James chapter 1 and verse 5. It's like it, James chapter 1 and verse 5, the ask for wisdom. It says, if any of you lack wisdom, right? And that particularly the woman, because the woman, it goes into, I'm gonna read it in Job 39:17. She's void of wisdom, right? So it says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Yahweh Shema Shah, that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, which means hateth, right? Or is displeased. So the Lord is not displeased when you ask for wisdom, okay? It said, and it shall be given him. So the Lord is not upset when you ask for spiritual things. When you ask for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Okay, the Lord is not upset with that. All right. So again, for you Eves out there listening, you should ask for wisdom and discernment if you are single when choosing a man to deal with, because like I said, this is an investment. You have to stick to that man. You know what I'm saying? You can't just leave him just to leave. Like that's wicked. That's going on. So you want to make sure that you that you're making the right choice. So you gotta pray to Yahweh Shalal Shah for wisdom and discernment. Okay. Now regarding let me go to Job real quick. Job 39:17. It says, because Yahweh Shalal Shah hath deprived her of wisdom, neither have he imparted to her understanding. Right, and you're gonna see that in the clip, because this woman clearly has no understanding from how she responded, right? For how she responded to the question, if a man cheated on her, you know, this is what she would do basically. You know what I'm saying? She has no wisdom because you're not getting revenge. A woman is not getting revenge by committing adultery. She actually destroying herself. Right? It tells you that in Proverbs, and that not just for the woman, but for anybody who commits adultery. They are really destroying themselves. This is Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 32. It says, but whoso committeth adultery, right? So for the woman committing adultery is sleeping with any man other than her husband, right? A woman can't just sleep around. and she sleeps around, then she's an adulterer. See, so it says, but whosoever committeth adultery, right, and particularly if she's married and she sleeps around, then she's an adulterer, because you do have prostitution, which is different, because a prostitute is not married. You know what I'm saying? And she's sleeping around, right? So a prostitute is not an adulterer. An adulterer is someone who's committed to a relationship, is a woman who's committed to a relationship, and adulteress, rather, it's like an adulteress is a woman who's committed to a relationship to a man, but she's sleeping around with other men, right? For the man version, because there is a version of adultery for men, men commit adultery by sleeping with another man's wife, because that's basically you're laying your seed in another field. The scriptures equate that to laying your seed. So a man committing adultery is like him laying his seed in another field. He's polluting that crop. He's destroying those crops. You know, that's wicked. That's going on. So continuing on, it says, but whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. Now adultery is a two-way street. It's not just the man that's committing adultery, it's also the woman. It's a partnership when it comes to adultery. It just can't be the man, or just the woman. They have to come together and agree to do that act of wickedness. You see what I'm saying? So it's a two-way street. See, so anyone who could, both the man and the woman that commits adultery, they destroying themselves, right? They are destroying themselves. It says, verse 33, a wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. Right, because, shame comes with, great shame comes with those that committed adultery, those that get caught in the act, right, where their relationship is exposed. Great shame comes follows, right, especially during the time of the ancient world, because during the time of the ancient world, right, if a man, if adulterous relationship was caught, that man, those that couple will be put to death, or they'll be severely punished, right? Not only shame, but now, so shame will follow them being exposed, right? The adulterer and adulteress being exposed, but also severe punishments will follow. All right. So, yeah, like the scriptures say, he that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. All right. I'm gonna play this clip and then we'll wrap this up.
Don't cheat because you've seen your man cheat on you.
Well, I'm telling all the ladies out there, when your man cheat on you, cheat.
You see what I'm saying? Because these people in the world don't understand. Like, if a man can have a polygamous relation. Polygamy is scriptural, right? If a man chooses to deal with another woman, and that woman is and the woman that he another woman that the other woman that he's dealing with, rather, is unmarried, then that's lawful. A man can deal with more than one woman. See? Now, to prove this, that polygamy is lawful, we're going to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24, verse 5. It says, when a man that taketh a new wife, right, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, which shall cheer up his wife which he have taken, right? Because that year before he sent off into war, he's spending time with his woman, but it's not just for that. The Lord set that up because the man might die in the war, right? If he's sent out the war, he might not come back home to his wife. So in that year, right, you know, they're consummate, right, through the act of sex and produce a child. So he's in the scriptures it's ordered that a man that before he goes to war that he spend 1 year with his wife so that he can leave a legacy behind, which is that child or children, right? It might be twins, you know what I'm saying? It might be brother, sister, whatever the case may be, however many children, but it's to leave a legacy behind, right? And look what the scripture says. It says when he have taken a new wife, because like I said, a man can have more than one woman, right? Polygamy is lawful in the scriptures, okay? He's not tied down to one woman as an Israelite man. That's like it as an Israelite woman is tied down to that man, to that one man. You see what I'm saying? An Israelite woman cannot sleep around. Now I'm not talking about these bitches in the world, because these bitches are shameless. You know what I'm saying? They're not even considered, they Israelites physically, but they're not considered Israelite women because they don't even identify as Israelites. They don't even know that they Israelites. They're not hold they're not hold to the same standards as you sister or as you like sisters, because they're in darkness, right? The Israelite women in the world are in the world, right? They're not hold to the standards of the Israelite women in the truth. So when I mean Israelite women, I'm talking about the ones in the truth, right? Not the ones in the world, all right? Because in the ones in the world, they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do. Like you're hearing this woman here, right? She going to sleep around with whoever, right? Because she's an adulterer. And then that go back in the Proverbs, the 30th chapter, where it says, adulterer wipeth her mouth and saith that she do no wickedness, right? And that's how these women are. You know what I'm saying? And well, you look at the so-called black woman, right? They have a spirit of like a prostitute spirit on them. It's like they got you know what I'm saying? They you know what I mean? They really are harlots, bro. The women of the tribes are really harlots when you think about it. They got a perverse spirit on them because they want to, particularly Salakia, yeah, they got a perverse spirit on them because they want to sleep around. You know what I'm saying? And they always, especially the Southern Kingdom women always want Jake to pay for something. You know what I'm saying? Pay for her nails, pay for her hair, pay pay a light bill, pay a gas bill, pay the rent. It's always payments, like a prostitute. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's always dealing with something monetary, right? In order for you to get access to her, uh, you know, to maybe date her or take her out on a date, or to get to know her better, right? You have to, you always have to give payment, right, of some way, shape, or form. Okay, and it's not always the case, but generally speaking, that's just been you know, men experiences out here in Babylon, man, and you know, in different parts of the world as well. You know, men can attest for this. All right, and I say that in that way because I have very little experience dealing with women. Just the Lord just had me in that, you know, like in that eunuch type of spirit. But like I said, when you go on social media, you see online of what men, you know, and also too, when you go on social media, you see what's going on online. You're also looking at the women. The women, particularly Keisha, and that's been the pattern. You see the so-called black woman. She always, you know, always saying that if you want to date her, if you want to get to know her, if you want to be in a relationship with her, it's always a payment. You gotta pay something. See what I'm saying? It's always payment. Always dealing with payments. So again, polygamy is, going back to the topic. Polygamy is lawful, right? In the scriptures. Okay, we're reading here Deuteronomy 24:5, right? But this is, to make it even clearer, this is Deuteronomy 21 and verse 15. It says, if a man have two wives, Why did it say 2 wives? Because polygamy is lawful in the scriptures, right? A man can have more than one woman. So it says if a man have 2 wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he have, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn, right? So in this scenario, the Lord is putting it in the scenario of a man that has 2 wives, right? And he loves one over the other, right? And the one that he hates is the firstborn, right? The wife that he hates is his first child, and the one that he loves is his second child, right? So when it's time to divide the inheritance, as is written in the law, right, the firstborn gets the greater of the substance of the inheritance, right? He receives a significant portion, right, a great portion of the inheritance that's left by the father, right? So in this context, the Lord is saying that because the wife of the firstborn, right, is hated, right, that doesn't change the fact that the child that they produce is still the firstborn. So just because he hate his just because he hate his first wife, but love the second wife, right? Doesn't neglect the fact that the child that him and the first wife produced, which would be the eldest child, right? In this context, the eldest son, he will receive the greater portion of the inheritance, right? Not the youngest son, because he's the youngest, all right. And he was, and when it comes to the law, it talks about that the greater portion of the inheritance is given to the firstborn. So the father, right, in this instance, can't give the younger son the inheritance because he liked his mother more than he liked the second wife more than the first wife. You see what I'm saying? He can't do that, right? He has to stick to the script, which means that even though he doesn't like his first wife, he still, because that's his eldest son that they had together, that's his eldest son from the wife that he hated. He still had to give her. He still had to give that son a significant portion of his inheritance. To put it simply, right, you have a man that has 2 baby mamas, right? Just because he don't like his first baby mama but like his second baby mama, does not deflect that he still has to give a greater portion of his substance to the child that he had with his first baby mama, right? And he can't just give that to his second baby mama just because he liked the second baby mama over the first. If that makes sense, just to put it more in layman terms. Okay, but the point being is that polygamy is talked about in verse 15, right? If a man have 2 wives, you see, because men can have more than one woman. All right. Let's go into Job 39:17. It says, because Yahweh Shalom Shah had deprived of wisdom, neither have he departed of her understanding. Right. Eve don't have no wisdom when it comes to what? The knowledge, wisdom, understanding of the scriptures. Right. That's why the scripture says the the tabernacle of the sheep of my pasture is men, right? Is men, because the Lord is imparting a great portion of the knowledge and understanding to the men, right? Now, do you have the sisters that know? Yes, they know, but they're learning through their husbands at home, right? They're learning through the elders and through the teachers that the Lord put out here, right? Through his men. So they still receiving that wisdom through a man, right? The Lord is not imparting that wisdom on her directly. See what I'm saying? Right? He's not dealing with her the same way that he's dealing with a man. You know what I'm saying? Rather, Yahweh Shema Shah is dealing with the woman, the Israelite woman through the man, right? If she has a man, right? or through her teachers. Okay, so let's get into her response, and then we'll close the video up.
back.
Okay. You go. What I'm saying is cheat because you want to. Don't cheat because you've seen your man cheat on you.
Well, I'm telling all the ladies out there, when your man cheat on you, cheat back.
Okay. You're gonna get your lick back like that. So who you gonna go after? His partners?
His father and turn him in a stepson.
Hey,
Your
y'all
blood
co-signing
clot.
this.
Yo, I told you, man, these women in the world are trifling, bro. It's like cause these women got spirits on them. You could clearly see that with the attitude she gave in her response. She got spirits on her, man, and that's how these people in the world, they got spirits on them. And see, she's saying that basically that if she found out that her man, what they call cheating, is like, all right, he basically being polygamous, really, because unless he's sleeping with another man's woman, it's not really cheating if he gets another woman. You see what I'm saying? But in the eyes of these women in the world, they see that, oh, if he get another woman, oh, he's cheating, or he's cheating, and that's not the case, right? There is no such thing as cheating, right? It all boils down to adultery, and he's not committing adultery if he gets another woman, right? He's only committing adultery if he gets another man's woman. If he try to make another man's woman his own, that's when that man is committing adultery. But if he gets another woman, another single woman, like when he met you, like when he met, not you specifically, Salakia, but I'm saying when he met a woman when she was single, right? When she was single, and he got that woman that he with now, and he meets another woman that's single and hooks up with her, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because she was single, she wasn't tied down to any man. But see, Eve in the world, these wicked bitches in the world, they look at it as evil if a man getting another woman, when they are attracted by a man who gets multiple women, because it shows that he's attractive. It shows that he have attractive traits, right? Because them checklists that women have, right? He already fits the boxes because he can attract multiple women. So he already fit that checklist. You see what I'm saying? He's already in a sense, proving himself, right? Through the fact that he can attract multiple women, or the fact that he can get one with the women, is already proved to the woman that he's attractive, that he must be um, highly valued, right? Was sought after. Okay, so the same thing that these women are jealous of, the fact that a man got another woman, is the very thing that they uh, that they would like their man to be, right? To be able to pull multiple women. Not to say that he has multiple women, but to be able to attract multiple women, to be able to get multiple women. That's what the woman, that's what these women want, right? The fact that they call it the ability to cheat. They want a man who has the ability to cheat. You see, because they know, like I said before, there's no such thing as cheating, but they want that. But they want a man who has the ability to get multiple women, right? Because it shows that he's attractive, and also it creates a sense of chase. Now she feel like she has to fight and kind of, you know put in the effort to get your attention. You know what I'm saying? Because now that she knows you can get multiple women, or multiple women are attracted to you, she feel like she has to fight for your attention. That's what she wants. She wants the challenge, the fight. She don't want to be bored. That's what women hate. Women hate to be bored in relationships. They like to be entertained, right? They like things to be spiced up and interesting. So her fighting for your attention among other women is an interesting thing. It sounds weird, right? It doesn't even make sense to the man's mind, but it's just really female nature and psychology, man. That's just how these women think, you know. And that's just their nature when you really get into it. But let's finish this and we'll wrap it up.
And y'all,
Yo, fuck, yo. And you are interview me and you are asking me.
that's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm telling
Your
you that
father and turn you into the stepson.
that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Trifling. She said she gonna sleep with the if she found her man cheating, she gonna sleep with her man's father and turn him to a stepson. These bitches is wicked, man. That's an adulterer, right? And I'm gonna close out with Proverbs 30 and 20, because this woman is clearly an adulterer, man. And that's how a lot of these women are. Even if he didn't cheat, it's just that the spirit that's on these women in the world, they like sleeping around with men anyway. So especially the so-called black woman, she loved to sleep around. You know what I'm saying? These bitches in the world, they love this, especially the women of the tribe, particularly the black woman in the Southern Kingdom. They love sleeping around, bro. And you notice that this is a so-called black woman saying this shit. You know what I'm saying? American at that, particularly American women, because they the worst out of all the women, and also a so-called black woman. You know, love to sleep around, love to yeah, just loving to sleep around. Loving to explore her options, right? As she claimed it to be, right? As women love to claim it to be exploring your options. No, they're just being whores, right? You know what I'm saying? And they'll find and really any excuse, because it could be in a scenario where the man didn't cheat, right? But she wanted to still sleep around just because she feel like sleeping around. Fucking demons, man. You know what I'm saying? And this is why the elder apostles, particularly Elder Apostle Carr, in particular, he be getting on the so-called black woman because she's a fucking degenerate. You know what I'm saying? This is why the elders be telling us, stay away from this black woman, man. This is exactly why, bro. This bitch is trifling. She really said that if she catch her man cheating, or in other words, if she catch a man with another woman, she gonna sleep with his father, bro. That's trifling. That is really trifling, bro. You know what I'm saying? Turn him to a stepdaddy. Like that's some trifling shit. Like these women. That's what I said, bro. Like this is why the Apostle Paul said it in 1 Corinthians 7:1 that it's better for you to be by yourself. Not just in the ministry, but just in life. It really is better to be single. Now that doesn't mean you can't deal with a woman, right? But it's just better that you just release, right? You got a woman that you can just call, that you might be cool with, that, you know what I'm saying? Cool with, side chick, that you cool, not a side chick particularly, but that you cool with, one night stand. She know her assignment. She understands she just did it, you know what I'm saying, to get her cheeks clapped, as they say. And then you go about your business. Because what man has time for this? You know what I'm saying? You know, and one of the one of the bros we was talking about this earlier. You might get tired of a woman that you know what I'm saying. You get tired, like he was saying, of the same old box, and you might just want new box. So you decide. So now in this scenario, you decide to get some new box. You ain't get rid of the old box. You just got a new box. Let's say a new pair of shoes, right? You tired of wearing the same old shoes, so you want to get a new pair of shoes, and now you got a new pair of shoes. You know what I'm saying? It's an issue now. Just because you got a new pair of shoes, now your wife is upset because you got a new pair of shoes. If you get what I'm saying, I'm not talking about shoes, but if you understand what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. But this is what you deal with women in the world. This is why the elder be saying, don't deal with the so-called black woman. Now, that's not an order, right? And I'm not saying that to say that you can never uh, deal with a black woman, right? But rather, when the elders and the apostles say, stay away from the black woman, they telling you from experience, right? From the multiple women that they dealt with, particularly the so-called black woman, right? From their experience, you shouldn't deal with her, man. You know what I'm saying? Because she brings nothing but chaos, right? And if you choose to deal with her, if you choose to, because brothers gonna like what they like. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to force, preferences. Oh, date this woman. Choose these type of women. You know what I'm saying? But if you do deal with the so-called black woman, right? You better know what you're getting involved with. You know what I'm saying? You better know what you're dealing with because, and you better move with wisdom because, like I said, you already seen this example here, man. How just trifling they could be, just American women in general, but particularly the so-called black women, how evil and trifling they can be, bro. You know what I'm saying? Keisha's a piece of work, man. But let's finish this video out.
That I knew 2026 now.
Okay, I'll give you these things. I'll give you this example. Let's say, for instance, you take me out in Jamaica, right?
Wrong place.
Well,
I dey so born for born there. But they say somewhere else. Pick a different country. Cause if I Jamaica, fuck for fuck right through.
we going to Jamaica. What I'm saying is cheat because
And he's wicked for even saying that. You shouldn't just cheat. A woman should just sleep around just cause. You know what I'm saying? They do that anyway. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't just do that just cause, man. But I end off with this. This is Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 20, right? Because that bitch was going totally off. Proverbs chapter 30 verse 20. It says, "Such is the way of an adulterous woman." That woman is an adulterous woman, bro. She loves, you know what I'm saying? She don't mind sleeping around. She don't mind uh, uh um dealing with multiple men. She's an adulterous woman. You know what I'm saying? So it says, "Such is the way of adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness." So that's that's speaking about how she takes no accountability, right? About about uh about her sexual activity, about her sleeping around. She's not gonna take no accountability to that. When confronted about her sleeping around with multiple men, she's not gonna and literally cheating on her husband, literally committing adultery on her husband. She's not gonna take accountability for that. You know what I'm saying? That's what the scripture said. Where she wipeth her mouth. The woman she eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness. Meaning, she's not gonna take no accountability for what for committing adultery. In her mind, she did nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? That it's okay to sleep around with men. You know what I mean? That's the way of an adulterous woman. And that bitch that you see in the clip, she's adult. She's an adulterous woman, bro. She's finding no fault in sleeping around. You know? But that's about it. Just to cover our bases, right? For the Israelite woman, right? If you choose to I'd rather you pray to Yahweh Shema Shah and work on developing your character and your spirit so that you're ready to receive a man of the Lord, right? Don't just, and if you're burning and you desire to have a man and you need the embrace of a man, right? And you feel like you can't wait, pray to the Lord Yahweh Shema Shah for discernment and choose the right partner, because as an Israelite woman, you are tied and bound down to that man. You know what I'm saying? Right? Well, as it's written, the two become one flesh. You know what I'm saying? You can't just be like, oh, I don't like him, in the heat of you're seeing after the honeymoon phase, oh, I don't like him. He doesn't, he's not who I thought he was. He doesn't, I don't feel fulfilled in this relationship. Basically, you can't just leave him because you don't feel fulfilled in it. You have to work through it. It's like a business. You can't just quit the business because you feel like quitting the business. No, you have a responsibility to the business, and you have to maintain the business and nurture the business and help the business grow. You know what I'm saying? Particularly a family business. You know what I'm saying? Because you're a part of that family, so you have to maintain and upkeep that family business. So it's the same with your husband, right? The man that you choose to deal with, rather Salakia, the man that you choose to deal with, right? You can't just leave him because you feel unfulfilled. You got to work through those problems, as it is written. Much trouble that you shall have in the flesh. Okay? So that's about it. But I highly recommend for you sisters out there to wait and to develop your spirit and character, work on being a Proverbs 31 type of woman, so that you can so that you'll be ready to receive the man of the Lord, so that, you know what I'm saying? But everything will be done in due season, right? As it is written, there's a time and place for everything under the sun. Ecclesiastes 3:1. So with that, Lord willing, this is an edifying lesson. Hope all you brothers and sisters stay strong, keep pushing, keep holding on to the faith. And with that, we say Shalom, Call Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Kadash, right? Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, and cited to the whole elect. Shalom, Abba Shalom.